Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel, and in today's video I wanted to talk to you about mistakes that I made in my indie comic career. I did a video. It's legal in Canada to make videos. A while ago I made a video on things that are not good in my comics, and I suggest you go watch it so you don't think that I am perfect at all. I do a lot of mistakes and there's some things in my work that I don't like. However, that video was more about the comic itself, the things about the comic, the work, the writing, the drawing that I didn't like and I think I could have done better. But in this video I wanted to talk about the career around this comic overall, or basically how I went about showing this comic to people or working in this comic, basically everything around it, and things I did that I know for a fact damaged my career and I'm still recovering from it. So I hope it can be useful for you, and yeah, let's get started. So the first mistake I did in my comic is that I was not consistent in my style within the comic. The thing about this, you will find the theme is whatever I'm actually saying is inconsistency. That's the problem. It kind of something I talked about in the video that I mentioned, the problems with my comic, but this also has to do with, you know, success and popularity of my comic overall. And at some point I decided to start switching style of my comic. It has to do with the way how I approach it. When I did first chapter of my comic, it was black and white. However, then I realized, well, I can also try to do a color version. So my chapter 2 was colored. So, and then when there was an opportunity for me to go on a Comic-Con and print the comic for the Comic-Con, I realized, well, I cannot sell chapter 1 in black and white and chapter 2 in color. So I painted chapter 1. So now I have 2 colors that I painted. I fixed that inconsistency. That I did good. However, as I was doing chapter 2, because I was just starting working in color, I didn't have plan for how I would approach drawing comic in color. I obviously drew in color before, but comic has to be more stylized. I kind of was experimenting on every page, and I were drawing more artsy, let's say. Chapter 2 is more artsy, it has more brush strokey effects and all of that. However, I realized several problems with this approach, and the obviously first one is that it's so artsy that I cannot plan my pages ahead. It's that I'm going with the page, with each page that I'm drawing, I'm realizing how I'm gonna be drawing this, so it's hard to predict. I had to draw page to page, which is not as fast, not very productive. If I stuck on the page, I stuck on the whole comic. So that was the problem. And another problem is just the speed. This artsy style took more time, and later I realized that I can reuse backgrounds, which will actually help me to draw faster. And I couldn't really reuse backgrounds with this artsy style because backgrounds kind of were ambiguous depending on the panel. So I kind of started switching the style a little bit, and this kind of was a problem because I have several people that dropped the comic just after chapter 2. There was definitely a style change. I don't believe it was that crazy drastic, and I don't believe the quality went down. It just became a little different. However, I still lost some people, and people who I didn't lose, they still, you know, tell me that they really like the art style in chapter 2 and they hope it will come back, and I'm sad to tell them that it won't. I personally, actually, fun fact, didn't really like that style. I prefer my style right now. However, that's the thing, when you sell people one thing, I'm doing it like in quotes, but when you show people one product and then ask them to stay, but then you change the product, people are not gonna stay because it's not what they subscribed for. So that was the problem with the comic. This is the first problem that affected my comic in the beginning, and yeah, unfortunately, I'm actually thinking to go and redraw chapter 2 and do it in more like in the style that I have now, just for the new people who come into the comic, I don't have these people leaving or dropping it off just because of the style. So let's see, but it will slow me down from going forward with the actual story. I don't know, we shall see, I'll figure it out. But this is the first mistake I wanted to mention. Second mistake, so I call them mistakes. However, if I were in the situation that I were back then, I would probably make the same choices, just because I made them because of the amount of knowledge and understanding I had and the circumstances that were happening in my life. My second mistake, or thing that just damaged my comic being exposed to the readers, is the fact that I took hiatus for for 2.5, almost 3 years, right when my comic actually was getting popular. And the reason I did this is because in my personal life I was going through a lot of stuff. On every aspect of life that you can name, there was something really bad happening and needed my attention, and I was not mentally in the right state of mind. And actually at this point I even sold my computer. I didn't have my computer. I couldn't draw because I thought, well, maybe drawing is not my thing, which is crazy because I've been drawing since I'm 3. It's definitely my thing. I love drawing, but I was in a bad mental space, and drawing it was not the thing for me to worry about. And I took hiatus on my comics. I wasn't drawing it, and at this point I thought I would never draw it. And this was the time where like I primarily posted my comic on DeviantArt back then, and DeviantArt back then was popular, and I had pretty good following on DeviantArt. Every time I post something I will have thousands of views, hundreds of comments, hundreds of likes, favorites. My work would be going up to the feature pages and whatnot, just because I built up this momentum. I was posting a lot, I was drawing comic, I was doing it consistent, you know, it was on the uphill path. However, then I took the hiatus, and several things happened while I was on this hiatus. One thing is that DeviantArt started declining, and this was the time when it started losing its popularity, and a lot of people switched from DeviantArt to different platforms, to Instagram, to Patreon. Basically, this is where a lot of people were actually starting Patreon, and this is where a lot of big Instagram creators switched to Patreon platform, and I missed that opportunity. And also this also was where people like people who would be readers or followers of the artists and comic creators started leaving platform for something else. So when I came back, there were not enough people on the platform, and a lot of my viewers and followers, they just were not there, and they just were not on platform at all. So, and no matter how much I posted and no matter how much activity I did, like, people just were not there anymore. And the thing is, I didn't know where they went, because I wasn't there to redirect it to different platforms as other creators did when DeviantArt was going down. I couldn't find them, I couldn't regain them back, and I couldn't regain my momentum back on the DeviantArt, because another thing that I also didn't know what other places people went, creators went to, you know, promote their art. I didn't know, so I had to figure it out all on my own. And another thing, a lot of my readers, they forgot about my comic and stopped reading it and didn't care, because it was such a long time. I was releasing those 2 chapters, I probably released them within a year, and then 2-3 year hiatus. Only were exposed to my comic for a year, and then didn't hear about it for 2-3 years. So when I started posting, they might not be even interested in following my work just because they don't trust me to finish it, because I'm asking them for commitment, I'm asking them to read pages, I'm asking them to engage in the story, remember plot points, and they don't know if I'm gonna post again or not. Even though for now I've been posting again for 2 years, I still feel like people just started to come back, the ones who were still on the platform. So this was the major problem. And another problem that happened is also, as I said, kind of inconsistency thing. And I have a lot of Instagrams. Because of all the things, I have Instagram for each of them. I even have an Instagram for my dog. But basically, she's doing better than me, by the way. But anyway, I have a fairly big Instagram that is all about my art, and I've been posting there even while I was not doing my comic or doing some active art. I still had some pieces that I would post here and there. But when I came back to post my comic again, what happened is that people didn't care about my comics, because I didn't set up the platform that I was putting so much more effort and time into supporting my main creative activity, which was comic. And usually now all the drawings I do, they're under NDAs because I do them for freelance. I don't really just draw for fun random stuff anymore, because why? I can spend this time drawing my comic. There's a lot of work to do. Basically, I was going to use this platform to promote my comic. However, this platform was not built on the premise of a comic. People would come there, see my just standalone art and be like, oh, we want to watch this girl on Instagram that creates a standalone art. And then I would start posting comic, and maybe none of them actually care about comics overall. They never want to watch comics, and I post comics and they're like, well, and I keep posting comics, and I actually could see that some people would unfollow just because that's not what they subscribe for. And it is fair. It's the thing about inconsistency and giving people what you promise them. If you introduce them to a platform, to a comic or to something, and then you change something about it, it's absolutely absolutely natural that some people will not like that. And you should expect that almost all of your readers will not like that, just because it's not what you promised. That's not why they're here, and you're giving them something else. Maybe if you show them this in the beginning, they will not even subscribe in the first place. They're not your audience anymore. So that also another thing that happened. And actually what I have to do right now, I created brand new Instagram that is just for my comic. It has 14 times less followers right now. However, engagement is so much more. I actually did a test for just a live stream. I did like a live stream on both of those Instagram at the same day, with a difference of like 40 minutes, and one of my Instagram has 14,000 followers, and another Instagram, just that one I just started, it just have 1,500. So I did the stream on the 1,500, and this stream has 500 views, and several people were showing up while I was, streaming live. But when I did it on my other Instagram that has way more followers, literally I would have maybe one person will show up and then they will disappear right away. Because again, I was doing the stream of me drawing my comic. They would show up and be like, what is this? I don't want to see that. So they would go away, and now I'm starting completely over. So that's another kind of mistake that I did, and now I know better to not to do this and actually provide people with the content that the one they subscribe for. And if you're creating different content, create a completely different platform. So those are 3 mistakes that, like big mistakes, like major mistakes that I made in my comic creation career, and now I'm slowly recovering and kind of re-establishing myself with putting stuff on Instagram, putting stuff on different websites, working on my Patreon, learning how to work better on Patreon, because I was not there when everybody was learning. I came when a lot of creators already figured it out. Yeah, so those are mistakes that I made, so I hope it can be interesting for you, so you cannot make the same mistakes, or if you, maybe it was just interesting for you to look at my struggles. So I hope you guys found this interesting, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you guys.